Welcome to the Sisterhood Podcast, where faith meets real talk and sisterhood means doing life together. Hosted by Ashley and Megan, this is your space to be seen, heard, and reminded that you don't have to do life or faith alone. We're just two friends chasing Jesus and inviting you into the journey.
Because the road gets sweeter when we walk it together. Whether you're navigating your purpose, building community, or just need a soul refresh, we got you.
So grab your coffee
And pull up a seat at the table.
This is the Sisterhood Podcast. Let's grow in faith together. Welcome back to the Sisterhood Podcast. We're so excited that you've joined us. We're getting to sit together today.
Yeah.
So maybe find a friend and listen along with us or watch.
So today we are going to be diving right in. We are obviously so excited to be in person. It's been a minute. I think it's been a month and a half-ish
Probably.
since we've been together. So thank you for navigating this season with us as we've just kept it going, but done it from various locations, various audio and video qualities. We appreciate your patience with that.
Trying to get it all the kinks figured out. And it's like the more kinks that we untangle,
The more that
something else happens.
Yeah. But I think the goal is to be able to do it wherever we are because we love doing this so much, but we just want it to be, we want to keep the consistency and we want to also just feel the lightness of being able to do it.
Yeah. And we want to keep the quality because I think that's important for us and we want it to be not important for y'all, but where you're not tuning in and like immediately tuning out because it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
So we're working on all of those things. We appreciate all the feedback from having our husbands on the episode or on the podcast.
It was fun for both of us.
Yes, it was. And
also we didn't know what they were going to say, so it was a little terrifying, but mostly fun.
Yeah, apparently I got calf roped and tied up.
And Seth wants to be a watchmaker. He thinks that's a skill set that could perpetuate into something great. I don't know. You just don't know people. You think you know someone. You just don't ever really.
Yeah. Been married 10 years and
been married 15.
Never heard that phrase used in his
acquiring of you.
Yes, acquiring.
His acquisition of you.
Yes. And so it was lots to learn.
Yeah.
But they did. I know for Caleb, I can't speak for Seth, but Caleb was like, well, when do we get to do that again? And I've been trying to like get him to he was already like down to do it, but
excited about it.
Yeah. So now he's like, well, can we do it again? And so.
Yeah. Seth was very excited to do it and to do it again. So we will have more on that in the future and kind of what we're thinking because we got so many comments and so many pieces of feedback in regards to having a man on the podcast and just like a different perspective in that way. And we had fun and I think it shows a different side of us, but we definitely want to respond to that feedback and do some of the things that were kind of put out there as a result. So more to come on that.
Absolutely. So today, Megan has been she's been in this whole season of transition and like the Lord has been good and faithful. And so he's been, I think, hitting her with, this is what I've been trying to show you. And so I'm going to let you kind of introduce what we're going to be talking about. And then we'll
go into it. Yeah. So I know that we have talked about trusting God and control nature and pride. And this has kind of been on repeat in my cycle of what God is showing me. But a couple of days ago when we were talking, I was like Moses, like just the basket and giving God the things that are his anyways. And then watching him give it back to us. And so that's where I thought it was going. And that was ultimately not fully where it was going, but that was definitely the foundation of this topic today. So we're going to dive into Moses. We're going to be hitting a couple of different passages. We may not actually read through the whole passage because it's pretty lengthy. But we're going to, out of Deuteronomy, out of Exodus, and out of Numbers. I think that's, kind of where your stuff is from too. Is in Exodus. Is that right?
Exodus 2.
Yeah. So we're going to touch those things. Ashley's going to give foundational story, which a lot of us are very familiar with, but just a little bit of a different take on that, which I think is so important because we tend to miss all the details.
Yeah.
As kids, we're just so enamored with this baby in a basket floating down a river. And as an adult, we're like, what? Like, give me logistics. Help me understand. And once you fully understand, it gives so much depth to the story Anyway, so we're excited to dive into that today.
Yeah. So when Megan was talking about this, she presented it to me as the basket and the mom and God redeeming what she had surrendered. And then we were talking about it in Bible study last night. She was like, "Well, I went when he got older." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to be at the beginning."
Yes.
So that's
Worked
how
out.
it's going to kind of be. And it did. It worked out. It all tied together, which is how it always does,
Yes.
and how the
Yeah.
Lord always just puts it in a nice, pretty package.
Yeah. He's so good.
He is. And so I not entitling something. I just tend to write like
She does love titles. She loves themes. She loves titles.
I do. I love it.
That's who she
Helps
is.
me like focus in, narrow in on what I want to do. And so when I was looking into this story, the biggest part of it was releasing what we cannot rescue. And as a mom
Mm.
and as a woman in general, because I want to speak just to our women, we hold on to things thinking that we can make it better, that we can fix it, that we are the ones essentially in control.
Yeah.
And when we do that, sometimes we're hindering what the Lord is trying to release in us.
Mm.
And so, whether that be our kids, our jobs, our husband,
Yeah.
relationships, all the things that are important to us, we're holding on. And God's like, if you would just release this, you're trying to fix and rescue when I'm asking you to release.
Right.
And
I've
so,
already got it covered. I've already got it taken care of. But you
yes,
think you can manipulate it to work for the best?
yeah,
It's just comical, really.
yeah. We try so hard, and
So hard.
and the Lord's like, let's just build a basket. So if you look in,
Can also, and you just said that and you kind of chuckle. Can you imagine how ultimately comical it is on the other side? Like, we always say hindsight is 2020. This is something I thought of after last night. Like when she's like encountering the thought of her baby dying,
mhm,
and God's like, just basket time.
yeah, build a basket.
And she's like, seriously, like the soldiers of the guards of the Pharaoh are coming in. They're
Yeah,
taking these children, but you want me to, it's basket weaving time.
yeah,
Like it's hobby time.
yeah,
Like she was probably like, I mean, it doesn't say she laughed like Sarah laughed, but I would imagine there was some kind of like, are you serious?
yeah.
Seriously?
But she did it, and
She did.
so
She did. She was obedient.
Moses's mother, her name is Jochebed, and you can find her name in chapter 6 of Exodus. And it goes into like Moses.
Oh,
It goes into
fancy.
Moses's lineage and so what his dad's name was. So they were from the Levite tribe, which is the priestly tribe when you get through like Abraham and Jacob, and it goes into all of Jacob's children. So Levi, and then you get the Levites. A little bit more backstory than you probably needed right now. But anyways, so it does make purpose. She was from a tribe where their sole purpose was the presence of God,
Mhm.
and carrying the presence of God and making sure that almost like the prayer warriors, the people that
Mhm.
they drew in.
Mhm. And spiritually leading.
Yes. And so they knew about the sacrifices. They knew about what it took to get to the holiest place. And so she already knows all these things. So, Jochebed, even in her sacrifice, she shows that faith is not passive. It acts, it builds, and then it releases.
Mhm.
So right away, we're seeing a woman who is fully trusting God that no matter what happens, yes.
Which I can't imagine, because fully trusting God, not knowing the outcome, and she's putting her baby's life into a basket, into a river, and just, okay.
Yeah. So her obedience brought divine reward, and it shaped the destiny of a nation.
Mm.
So we know a lot of her story, or of the story in the beginning of Moses, but she had a courage that was rooted in conviction. It wasn't going to be swayed. It wasn't going to be turned. And when you go into Hebrews, into chapter 11, the Hall of Faith, you read that Jacob, oh, good Lord, Moses's parents were mentioned because of they hid their son for
Mm.
3 months. So imagine, like, I sit here and I read this story at times too, and I'm just like, the Lord must have just had like a covering over their
To
home
not hear that
to
baby
not
crying.
yes,
Yes.
because other women were losing their children to the soldier. I mean, the Pharaoh's soldiers were coming in and doing raids almost and
Yeah.
getting these children that were males.
And this isn't like what we picture now. It's not that they lived miles apart. It was
No.
camps. So
Yeah.
they were in their own camp. So you got to think like tents, like not even insulated walls.
Yeah.
There was no like acoustic panels to
Yeah.
like absorb sound. There was no white noise machine.
Yeah.
There was nothing to cover him being a baby. So, but I have to think like in a lot of this, to your point, there was that covering. And also maybe he was at peace
Mhm.
because God just allowed him, which I'd give anything for a peaceful baby.
Yeah. So she had obviously just true courage, and it true courage isn't the absence. I'm sorry, I'm looking at this because I want to make sure I read it right. True courage isn't the absence of fear, it's obedience in the presence of it. So she could have just stayed in a state of fear and said, no, I'm not doing this. I can't do this. I can't imagine putting my baby here, which she probably still had all of those
All those
thoughts,
thoughts
but she still acted
in
not
full
on her
obedience.
fear, but in obedience.
Yeah.
And she didn't know the outcome, but she trusted God's plan more than Pharaoh's power. And
Mm.
especially in our world today where we're looking at government and we're looking at all the bad
Everything.
things that are
Yeah.
going on, are we more quick to trust what God has said and what he has planned? Or are we more focused on, well, they're going to tell us that we can't go to church anymore, or they're going to do this or take this away or
Yeah.
whatever?
Or, some people get very invested in the end times.
Mm.
And not that we shouldn't be always, not that we shouldn't be always ready
Mhm.
and acting as though today is our last day and serving God as such, but we don't need to live in the fear of that and
Yeah.
what that looks like, which is what you're saying. We have a lot of people that are like, well, what if this happened? Well, God already knows the beginning to the end. So, and if I'm a child of God and he is with me, then I have nothing to fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how she operated.
Yes. And so when she saw Moses, it says in some versions it says they saw how beautiful he was.
Mhm.
And there was another version that I read that just saw that they saw God's purpose uh for Moses. And I just thought that was such a cool way of, I mean, I remember looking at Charlie and just thinking how beautiful she was.
Hmm.
And obviously, I couldn't wait to see her grow up, and she is now, and I'm like, I wish I would have just kept the little baby face for a
Yeah.
little bit longer.
Yeah.
But this woman looked at her son and could see the purpose that God had for his life.
Hmm.
And so it says, and you get in verse 3 of Exodus in chapter 2, and it says that she built a basket. And the Hebrew word for basket is tabah. It may be, I'm going to go with tabah. We're not going to try to make it.
Figure out the Hebrew
Yes.
phonetics.
Yes. So tabah this is the same word used for Noah's Ark. And so both vessels were vessels of divine preservation in the midst of chaos. And how just and this is the only these are the only two times that this is mentioned, this like tabah word, as far as I know. So that they're mentioned in the Bible in this context. And tabah, the like definition of it would be a life-saving container.
Hmm.
So a lot of times we think of, and even Megan said
Yeah.
it last night, she was like, he just put her in a basket. And I was like, no, wait. She like the basket that she built to carry her son, she went through all the measures to make sure that this thing was literally a
Sealed.
life-saving
Yeah.
container, that what she was putting inside would survive.
Hmm.
And so one, the steps that takes in general, but then two, she had that much faith. She was like, I am putting him in here with the knowing that he will survive.
I don't think I have that faith.
Yeah.
That and even in the preparation process, what I love about her is she was fully obedient in spite of, like we're saying.
Yeah.
So even in the mental unawareness or the
Mhm.
mental unknown,
Mhm.
she didn't stop preparing.
Yeah.
She kept working on what she was told to do, believing and trusting that God was going to do what he said he was
Mhm.
going to do, but also still had all of that flesh in her brain like we do, all
Yeah.
those flesh responses that are there. She pushed them aside for the sake of trusting him and still prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. So this it represents faith built by human hands but carried out by divine direction.
Mm.
So sometimes the Lord calls us to put our hands
Yeah.
to what he's asking us to do. But then that's it. It's you put your hands to it, you make it, you place the blessing that I've given you in this basket, and then you take your hands off. And a lot of times we want to keep our hands on because we're like, well, if my hands aren't on it, then he's not going to make it down the river.
Right. Well, we want steps 6 through 10. We don't want just 1 through 5.
Yes.
We want the whole picture.
So she did what she could and trusted God to do what she couldn't.
Mm,
So she
that's
could
good.
build the basket, but she couldn't carry him to,
She can keep him safe.
yeah, she couldn't rescue him. And then we move into which this part for me is one of the coolest, just the story, but it's the surrender. Had she not surrendered her son, she would not have saved him. So when she put him in the Nile, this was the same place that other mothers were putting their children. Well, I doubt the mothers were. It was where the other Hebrew boys were being drowned um, in this river, the Nile. So it represented this was already a
Yeah.
place of death and it became a path of deliverance. So she was placing her son in this river of death and saying, God, make a way.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this woman.
No, no.
But God is so good that he often redeems what was meant for destruction.
Mm,
So what the Pharaoh thought was going to be the end of the Hebrew children, God looks at it and says, no, I have a purpose here.
yeah.
And then this part too, surrender is not giving up. It's giving over. And we think of like when you see someone surrender to the cops or whatever, it's like a sign of giving up. But what she was doing was giving over to God's
It's good.
power and not her own.
That's good.
And so she was strong.
Yeah.
She was a very strong woman. And I hope to,
Old Jackie.
yeah, I hope to have that kind of strength. But then we look as she's releasing the thing that God has given her, the son that God has given her, we then see God how into the details that he is.
Mm.
And I was telling them last night at Bible study, I was like, I've always said providence. We've heard providence said, but I was like, what does providence mean? Because there was providence in the details of what happened next. And so providence is the protective care of God. And then I went a little bit, so that's just like the definition. And I went a little bit further and looked, and it's the continuous active guidance and care for his creation, ensuring his purposes are fulfilled through his sovereignty and involvement in every aspect of life. So when she was turning
Mm.
Moses over to the river, and to God, she's saying, all right, you've got to be in all the details of this. And we see that. So God's hand guided every small detail, the timing that she put him in the river,
Yes.
the location that she put him in the river, the compassion of Pharaoh's daughter when she found him in the river, and then Miriam's boldness to follow the basket down the river.
Yeah, and let's focus on Miriam for a quick second. But what I did want to say before we talk about Miriam was you said the timing and the location and the fair. Like, think about God even managing the current
Yeah.
of the water. Like, the wind had to be certain and specific, that it just every tiny thing that we will completely take for granted.
Yeah.
He was like, no, these reeds are here, so he's got to be dropped in right here. This wind is going to come through this like this, and it's going to maneuver him down
Yeah.
here. she wants to bathe here this morning. I'm going to tell her servants, I'm going to whisper in their ears to move her down this
Yeah.
just all of the things where we take for granted the details that God is so intricately weaving in our lives.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
And so Miriam comes into play. So she sees Pharaoh's daughter sees this baby. They open the basket, the baby's crying, and she was like, we need someone to care for this baby. And Miriam's like, do you want me to go find a Hebrew mother to nurse him? And like Miriam's like, she's a child. We don't know how old she
Right.
was, but I'm imagining like maybe 9, 10 is
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
what I have in my head. And so she's like, do you want me to find? And so the way that God even put in her to one, follow the basket. I don't know if her mama told her to, like, you follow, make sure he gets somewhere
Mm.
safe or what, but she followed. She saw what was happening and she immediately responded with, I know somebody that can help.
Hmm. I think what's great about Miriam too, and something that we referenced this last night, is the boldness that she operated in. And we are all, especially in this time in this climate of the world, feeling very emboldened and very like, we're not going to sit by anymore. We're not going to be silent anymore. We're not going to be subdued anymore. We were going to love people aggressively
Mm-hmm.
because that's who Jesus
Yeah.
is. And at the end of the day, that's all they need to know.
Yeah.
That's all they need to hear as we walk with people. But Miriam was so bold, but she was not stupid. She was not bold and then opened her mouth and didn't allow the Holy Spirit to filter those things. She had knowledge, but she acted on it in wisdom.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine following him. First of all, watching your mother put your brother in the water.
Yeah.
Because Miriam is not being told by God what to do.
Yeah.
Jochebed is.
Yeah.
And so that's so many times we see people do things and we qualify it as crazy, but God is not speaking to us about their lives. God's speaking to them.
Yeah.
And so Jochebed puts the baby, so she's watching all this unfold. And yeah, maybe Jochebed did say something to her, maybe she didn't. But as she's falling, can you imagine how many times she wanted to maybe reach in and grab her brother out?
Yeah.
She's already seen what's happened to all these other boys. She's seeing what's happening here. This is a very scary time, a very hard climate to grow up in.
Yeah.
As a boy specifically, so she's seeing her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so she knows the reality of the situation. I mean, it's not like we have kids today that play toys and, are, just innocent. And yet they had to grow up.
Yeah.
Culture was demanding of
Yeah.
them. So I love that again, this is God in the timing. She waited and then even waited. She's watching, imagine like that urgency when you're watching the basket and you see the Pharaoh's daughter and you're like, oh my gosh, she could kill him because she could.
Yeah.
And so she might have wanted to just like run in and grab it and she didn't.
Yeah.
And not only did she not do it then, but she waited and watched the Pharaoh's daughter open the basket, encounter a problem or an obstacle, and then she gives the solution.
Yeah. Well, and two, I'm thinking like, oh, kids nowadays, they would have been like, that's my brother. My mom can help take care of him.
Yeah.
Like that could have been her response, but she was like, do you want me to go find a Hebrew mother that can be his wet nurse?
Yeah,
Is essentially what they're called.
Yeah.
And so even in all the chaos of the river and the releasing and all the things, Pharaoh's palace then became a place of God's promise because Moses was going to live there. So we see that Jochebed has released Moses to the river, to God, to fulfill whatever purpose that God's wanting to use. So when we release things, God restores back what faith releases.
Mm.
And that is such a good reminder, one, that when we take our hands off of things, the way that he comes in is like, see, this is what I had for
Yeah.
you. If you would have let this, like, when you let this go, this is what happens. So she not only got her son back, but was paid to care for him. And that's just a look at God moment too. Like, because I'm not getting paid to take care of my kid.
Mm.
And you're not getting paid to take care of your kid. Usually in today's society, we're having to pay somebody else to take care of our kid.
Yep.
And so she not only got back her son, she's getting paid to take care of him, and she's getting him in those most formative years of his life. Because when he goes back, he's usually what I've read and studied is about 2 to 4. We
Yeah.
don't know the exact age, but that 2 to 4 time frame once he's weaned and is more developed. So he was with his mother and his brother and his sister and his dad in a time where he was learning, and we don't know how much he
Yeah.
learned in that stage, but we know that as he gets older, there was something that clicked up. These are my people.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And this
so,
is who I am and this is who my God is.
yes. And so God's reward for obedience often exceeds what we can imagine. His mama probably didn't know that she was going to get him back.
No.
And that's how God works. So surrender, in our surrender, it leads to provision
Mm,
and not deprivation. Because we think a lot of times when we're releasing something to God that we're now deprived
yes.
of what it
It's
was.
taken from us
It's taken
effectively.
from us. We don't have access to
Right.
it anymore. And God's like, just watch me restore and provide in
Mm,
ways that you never thought could even be
mm-hmm.
possible. And that's the
Absolutely.
kind of God we serve. And the last part of what I want to share before Megan moves into his older years, we see Moses very early being formed and how he was shaped by his mother through his identity and his calling.
Mm.
And the deliverer of Israel, because that was what he was first delivered through a mother's faith. So, had his mother not been following and seeking the Lord,
Mm.
he would not have been saved for such a time as this. And I don't want to like quote Esther here,
But it is.
but it is. His mother knew there was a purpose and a
Yeah.
plan, even if it didn't line up with all her goals and dreams for Moses.
Mm.
Because also, he was delivered from a life of slavery and bondage and hard work. He
Mm.
got to live in a palace and grow up in luxury and
Privilege.
privilege and all of these things. And had his mother just hid him away until like he was
Whenever.
of age or and in that safe range, he would have been doing exactly what his people were doing when he saw them being persecuted.
Yeah.
So if I can leave you with anything, it's faith doesn't deny the danger. It builds the basket anyways. So
Mm.
as we
It's
move
good.
into this part where Moses is now an adult and he's having to make decisions for himself. He doesn't have a mama that's literally carrying him and providing ways to carry him
Mm.
to his promise. He is now in that place where it's requiring him to build a basket.
No, it's good.
So I'm going to let Megan
Yeah.
jump into her portion, and then we'll wrap up with.
So when we were talking about doing this conversation and this devotional, I was so excited about the basket. I was so excited about the releasing and God restoring. And because we've experienced that, I think everybody in some form has experienced that. If you're, I don't even know what age, because
Yeah.
God does so much for us constantly. So as I was navigating this, I started listening to a podcast of somebody I've never heard before. And I listened to it 3 times yesterday. I just loved it. And it's not my style preaching. It's not my style content. Maybe he launched into the story of a Gator Bowl game, and I was like, "What am I listening to?" But God knew. And in this time of transition where I have like a little bit of a commute, it has provided opportunities for me to seek out God in ways that I haven't been doing. And it's I just don't know, it's awesome. It's so awesome, and now that I got some of that, I want more of that.
Yeah.
Like, so it's one of those things, and I wanna encourage a note on this is that when we decide to start our days with the Word or our days with God, or even, like, you open your phone up, go to the Bible app first, whatever it is, once you start getting things and God is, like, tangibly applying things to your current state,
Yeah.
you want more. You're like, "Oh my god, like, this is so good. I can't how did I miss this? My whole life I've missed this, and this is God's been saying this to me." So I'm listening to the story, and I'm gonna kind of sum up the launch into this message that I listened to on repeat yesterday. Um, he mentions this Gator Bowl experience and this certain coach from Ohio State, and a lot of people know him, and his first name is Woody, and 28 years of titles and championships and amazing legacy, all completely kiboshed in one game. And he goes out there, takes something out on a player, not really sure what the full situation, full scope, but a lot of Ohio State fans know, and a lot of Clemson fans know what
Yeah.
happened that day. Um, I also thought that was so ironic. I'm from Florida, so it was like Gator Bowl, so I tuned in, and then they're like Clemson. I was like, "Wait a minute, South Carolina." So God is just so good about pushing those places and again, in the details of
Mhm.
everything. So he kept on talking about this legacy that this man operated in, that because of a moment, one moment, his Gator Bowl moment, he kept on qualifying it,
Mhm.
that was removed from him. And I was like listening to it and how many times we forget all of the milestones and all of the things that God has done in the moment. And then because of that moment, it's completely adjusted where the next, where the purpose is taking us now. So when we look at Moses, and I was really like, I don't know why I'm talking about an adult Moses now. I don't know why I'm listening to all this content. And as I got to the end of it, I was like, oh, I'm Moses. Okay. Okay. Because we try, and like Ashley said, we try to make it happen. We think we have like the hand in it. And even some of our conversations last night where I just don't, I don't know how I feel about certain things about this. And it's like we feel on some level that we have control
Mhm.
on these things and we just don't. It's comical and it's not, I don't think it's like laughable, but in my heart, it's comical the things that I thought that I controlled,
Yeah.
the things that I thought that I made happen. And so we watch Moses, and I just can't like, how cool is his life?
Yeah.
Like well, minus the little murder thing, but he he flees, and God's like, "Whoa, whoa, let me light this on fire and talk to you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?" And then he goes and gets the people. He frees an entire nation of slaves. They walk across a dry a dry seabed. I hate when people call it a riverbed because like it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
They walk across on dry land. We watch him, get water from a rock.
But even like the dry land, like that's so significant
Yes.
because they would not have been able to push their carts.
No, everything's heavy and the
Everything's
wheels are
it would
wood.
have been weighed
Oh, yeah.
down. So like for God to even
Think of the details.
think of the details and be so in that
Yeah.
providential care
Yes.
to say, we're not even gonna just raise the walls, we're gonna dry the seabed.
Yeah.
So nobody's getting stuck or
Yes. Nothing is nobody is lost here
Mhm.
of this nation, this tribe, right?
Yeah.
This is not where you lose.
Yeah. Sorry,
And
that wasn't where you
no,
were
but
going, but
also
it
I
was like
love the visual and like we grew up seeing it where the walls are so significant that there's like whales swimming
yeah.
by. And
The
I'm like,
Prince of Egypt. Great
yeah,
movie.
so good.
Great
So good.
soundtrack. If you
Really good
wanna
soundtrack.
yes,
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
So if you want a good
Yeah. Family,
family moment of Moses, that's a good
that's the
one.
one. But I just have that visual still
Yeah,
to
I
this
do
day.
too. There's no other movie or which I haven't really seen other movies done
No.
of it, but there's no other like even when I'm reading it, I'm like, with the soundtrack thing.
That's a little clip of the soundtrack
Yeah,
for you.
much better than that.
But we watch him navigate all of these milestones that are massive miracles. And you think at some point Moses would just be like, God is who he is and who he says he is, and I'm going to infinitely trust him from my time in a basket, an ark in a riverbed,
Hmm.
to my time growing up in a palace of luxury and privilege, to encountering God in the wilderness in a burning bush, to freeing a slave nation and walking across a dry seabed, to getting water out of a rock. And so this is where we find Moses, and this is the focus of this content at the end of it, is Moses at the second rock. And so we see in Exodus, Moses gets the staff. God tells him, hit the rock, water's going to come forth. The people are whining, they're complaining, they're thirsty. And I think of my kids like at the end of soccer practice, my legs are tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And you're just like, get in there. Come on. You haven't seen the fruit yet. Come on. We're almost there. And I got to believe that Moses was that way. Are you kidding me? Like, we're almost there. You got like 5 more minutes, just 5 minutes, get some water, go. And so he's trying to refresh the people, and God gives him the method to do that. So we see him do it in Exodus according to God's word and what God spoke over him. And this is in Numbers 20. So if you get time to read it, I just very much encourage, covering all of this passage for yourself, for your own heart,
Yeah.
because those things come back when we need them. Those things come, that's the wellspring that comes out in the moments that we need it. His word never returns void. So as much as our words are fun and we give, a little bit more history and depth to some of these things that we grew up knowing, dive in on your own,
Yeah.
because then those words come forth when you need them or when other people in your life need them. You can speak with confidence because it's his words, not yours.
Yeah.
So in Numbers 20, it dives into Moses and the rock. This is the second rock. And God is so in the details, even in the process. And we
Mhm.
saw that with Jochebed, how he said, I don't want you to just throw your baby in the river.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you're going to build.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to do. And she did it. and she was fully obedient. And that's super important because sometimes we feel like if I do 1, 2, and 3, but I don't do 4, I'm still obedient. I kind of pick and choose. Partial obedience is disobedience.
Yeah.
And we do that with our kids. Like when they do something, but they do it their way, we're like, that's not obedience. So we're so quick to call it out in them, but we live our lives adjusting what God has spoken over us to fit our comfortability.
Mm, yeah.
So
That's
anyway,
good.
Moses is walking up in here and he's like, I've been here, I've done this. Like, you have to know there was some level of pride there.
Yeah.
He was like, I know this road. I know what we're doing here. God said, get the staff. God said, go to the rock. And I have to feel like it's like our kids. Like we say, go to the fridge, get the ketchup, get the bun, make a sandwich. Our kids go to the fridge, they get the bun, they're upset about the sandwich. You're like, well, I said, get the ketchup. I say, there's all these other steps, but they're just like, I've been here before. I've done this before. They operate in their own confidence.
Well, it's almost too like when you hear that you've seen reels and TikToks and it's like, you're going to get the pen. And it's like, and so they get the pen, they take the pen, like the cap off, and
Mhm.
it's like, do not take the cap off. And so then they put the cap back on, and they're like, if you put the cap back on, now you have to, like, so it's like all these things,
Yes.
like, wait for the full directions
Yes.
and then
And how many
proceed.
times growing up doing homework and stuff, and you would do like one step and then rush, and you would not pay attention to the next step?
Yeah, I remember teachers giving us tests in like school, and it was like, some people would just automatically start with question 1, and if you read the directions, it was like, skip to question 7, do the prompt, and then turn your test
Yeah.
in. And people are like looking around at like these ones that are like finishing super early, and then like they get to question 7, and it's like, if you didn't read the first part of the directions,
Yeah.
continue the test on. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, it's so we're so wired that way. We're in a rush to get there, which is like with everything.
Mm.
Which is the other point of Jochebed, I think is so beautiful, is that she saw the plan,
Mhm.
but she didn't rush. If you hear my dog snoring, I'm so sorry. I'm living his best life.
Yes.
But she didn't rush to step 10. She allowed God to work in all of the
Yeah.
steps. I think we're all wired that way where we want to just get to the result. We want
Mhm.
to get to the fruit and we don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
So we've got Moses and he is here at the second rock and God says, get the staff. And he gets the same staff, and go to the rock. And he goes to the rock and he says, I want you to speak to the rock. And we watch Moses just completely disregard
Yeah.
the rest of the steps. And I didn't really understand why this was such a focal point of this message that I listened to on repeat yesterday, but he speaks to the people, not the rock. And then he claims this moment for him and Aaron, and then he hits the rock. So I'm like, okay, well, why is this important? Why is any of this important? And first of all, he took the glory from God.
Mhm.
He made it, he said, do myself and Aaron need to bring water out of this rock? And whoosh, and water came forth. And a lot of people are like, well, why would God allow water to come if he was disobedient? It wasn't the people's disobedience. It was Moses. So what he had for Moses was a different kind of consequence
Yeah.
because he's like, you made this decision. My people will still need water.
Yeah.
So God is so good in that he doesn't allow, I know we have all of these different versions of what suffering looks like, but he doesn't allow others to suffer for our disobedience. And so he takes the glory from God. He takes that moment where God was trying to sanctify himself to his people
Mhm.
and provide what they inherently needed, like literally water on their lips, right? Literally that moment. And he took that from him. And then the other part that's really important is that he didn't speak to the rock. God wanted him to speak to the rock because God wanted his glory to happen where an inanimate object and nothing of Moses's power could make it happen.
Yeah.
And so God had such a orchestrated moment there, and Moses just put the kibosh on it. He had his Gator Bowl moment. He
Yeah.
got out there and he was like, absolutely not. I'm done with these people and they're complaining and I'm doing it my way. Now I followed a little bit, so I'm still a little obedient. And God was like, absolutely not. It's disobedience here. And so then we listen, we read God take away the moment where he said, you will not enter the promised land.
Yeah.
These things that you have worked, I can't imagine 40 years in Egypt, 40 years walking, 40 years, it's all gone because of that moment
Yeah.
that he partially obeyed. He disobeyed. He was disobedient to what God had. And we know that God God had used him so far in all these milestones that God had done for him. It was like the moment in that moment he forgot. And I love the words in here, and it's worded a couple of different ways. I think this one is NLT, New Living Translation. So in the King James version, it says, because you did not believe in me enough
Oh, that just hurts.
to demonstrate my holiness, to sanctify myself to my people, you will not lead them into the land that I have promised. In the NLT, it says, because you did not trust me enough
Mm.
to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel, you will not lead them into the land that I'm giving them. And
Verse 20 what?
chapter 20, Numbers chapter 20, verse 12. And yeah, verse 12.
Yeah. Because you did not believe in me to uphold me as holy in the eyes of the people of Israel. Therefore, you shall not bring this assembly into the land that I have given them.
So his whole reasoning for making this a different situation than the first rock was he wanted to see Moses' faith on display in order to reconnect him to the people. Because at this point, the people are like questioning God. They're questioning the promise. They're questioning the promised land. They're questioning, are we ever going to get there? What's going on? Is this
I
going to
mean, it's
happen?
kind of their fault because they wouldn't stop whining.
Yeah.
But,
But
but I mean,
but that's how we are.
yeah.
Inherently, we're like, God, why am I here again? God, why can't you make the God? If you're the God that, and that's a Satan moment right there. Like, you're the God that can call down anything. So call down your angels.
Yeah.
Like, such a pride thing. And so but as flesh, we can relate to all these people that are complaining and murmuring and bickering and whining because that's who we are. And that's my kid on the soccer field. My legs are tired. I don't want to do it. And we're just like, we're almost there. It's 5 minutes. Sorry, I'm just a little salty. But what he needed is for Moses' faith to speak louder than any words. That's why he didn't want Moses to address the people.
Yeah.
He wanted Moses to address the rock, and then God in his infinite power and glory to hit that rock in his power and glory, not Moses,
Yeah.
not his hand, and then bring forth the water so that the people would be connected and sanctified to the Holy Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And so he not only took that from God, he took the glory for himself, but then he didn't have enough faith. And I just can't, and that's who we are. And I was like sitting there, I'm like, Moses, you're so dumb. Oh, I'm Moses. Because we navigate all of these things, we get through all these milestones. God is so good about doing, and he's done, and he continues to do, and he does not change, but we make him a box. We make him a timeline piece.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, I know you did that when I was X, but you're not going to do that now. So let me just take care of it. Let me take control over it. Let me make it happen, God. And he is still the same God.
Mm-hmm.
We are different.
Yeah.
We are so far removed from the miracle and the milestone that we forget the God that we serve. And so we talked about that even last night, like documenting the things that God is doing. Keep on talking about it. Like, I don't care if people get sick to death of you talking about the things he's done in your life. That is the best way to remind yourself of the God that you're working for, that you're serving, that is inside of you. That's the authority and the power that we have. These are the things that he has for us, but we forget.
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, how did he forget? Baby in a basket, in a basket. Egyptian prince, not by birth,
Yeah.
but by providence.
Yeah.
And then burning bush, and then how could he, Moses, with all these physical miracles?
I mean, even the plagues.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not even talking about those
Yeah.
today, but just how he watched God
Mhm.
pour out these plagues
Yeah.
on the Egyptian people.
Yeah.
And his people were spared. And but we're that that's it's like us to forget those things. And we were talking earlier, Moses still, even though he had a consequence for his actions, he still had to prepare the next generation, because you see it in Joshua and Caleb,
Yeah.
the next generation to lead these people into the promised land. So even though he was disobedient and he didn't get to step in, God still used him to teach
To raise up.
and to raise up those behind him and say, look, I made this mistake. Don't miss out on
Right.
this because of like me. Stay steadfast, stay listening to God and tuned to what he's saying so that those that you're leading do not fall astray either.
So good. And I think that's important to recognize in Moses, that even though he wasn't going to get to be in the promised land, as Christians, no matter what anything looks like for us, we don't deserve anything. but it is in us and it is part of our purpose here on earth to lead people
Yeah.
to him. So regardless of our situation, of the obstacles, of the circumstance, of our own doing, we are called, we are qualified, we are equipped, we are chosen to lead people to him.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter anything we get on this earth, anything we don't get on this earth, we couldn't come close to deserving. God is so good to us. But our goal, our purpose, our ministry here on earth is to lead people and love people like
Yeah.
Jesus. And that's what he did, even in spite of that moment where, you had to know, like, he's probably, God, are you sure about that? What
Yeah.
about now? Like, how about
Yeah.
now? I feel like I would be that way.
Yeah.
Or have we changed our minds?
Yeah.
With my kids. Yeah.
But and you read it all throughout scripture, like even when like the miracle didn't come for somebody or something didn't happen for somebody. And we see even in today, like
Yes.
if the miracle doesn't come, they're still not stopping
Yeah.
from leading people to Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal is training up that generation. Don't make these same mistakes that
Yeah.
I did. This one moment defined me and prevented me from entering into, I mean, he got to see it. He got to see it. And that's how good God is,
Mm.
that God allowed him to see what the people were going to walk into.
Yeah.
And so I think that for him was like the redemptive part of it, that
Yeah.
God was like, I'm going to let you see.
Yeah, the piece of,
And
like,
that,
the fruit, the actual promise.
yes, but you're not going to get to come in. So there was still that, because you disobeyed,
Yeah.
because you didn't follow me in this, you can see it, but you're not going to enter in. And so that would be like my kind of encouragement to you, is that go in fully faith filled and not questioning, so that you don't miss a moment where God's like, I have this for you.
Mm.
And like, don't give him the opportunity to take that away because we disobeyed.
Right, we didn't do our part, we did parts of it,
Hmm.
and we don't wanna miss it. I think there's one of the questions that you had in your wrap-up notes from last night was really, really worded well.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just leave this with you. What am I building and releasing to God right now? And do I trust him enough to carry it where I cannot go? And
It's good.
that's really hard. Even like with the devotion book that I've written, like, I don't know, like I did it because he asked me to,
Yeah.
but after it's done, like that's on him for it
Yeah.
to go
Where he has for
where
it to
he
go.
has for it to go. And even in Honduras, some of the connections that I made a connection the very first night with, she's in Texas and she's a counselor. And so she just had this like calming presence
Mm.
about her. And me and Candace were both just like shared our whole life story. And we just met this woman. That was just
Yeah.
like the, I don't know, it was just a piece, whatever.
Right.
But she was so sweet. And so I talked about, somehow got to the devotion book that I'd written, and she was like, please let's connect when it is released. She was like, because I have like 4 people right now that I know would benefit
From that.
from that. And I was just like, Lord,
Yeah.
you just put me in a room with somebody from Lubbock, Texas, and it's not even
Yeah.
published. Like,
Yeah.
you're already lining
Using
people
it.
up and using people. And I've had several, like, I can't wait for you. And I'm like, this is not like, and it's one of those things, like, I do not want
Yeah.
like the glory in this. Like, it's all for God to use.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things, like, I've built this, I've done all the steps and the work that I can to make it sustain and
Yeah.
hopefully carry life.
Yeah.
But at that point, like, it's got to go in God's, I can't manipulate or
No.
try to have my hand on it,
Yeah.
or it won't be what it's supposed to be. And so I don't know how that got brought in and tied in, but it
I think
did.
it's
And
good. I think
it's
it's
one
so
of those
good.
things, like, I
But
just,
it's operating in obedience, and God has so many things in store for us, and unfortunately, we're not like Jochebed. We don't get to see the entire, the plan, the scope.
yeah.
We just have to trust and she had to trust also, but I'm
Mhm.
saying we just have to trust in the complete unknown.
Yeah.
And I love that for us, and I hate that for us.
Yeah.
But if he has done it, he will do it, and he
Yeah.
continues to do it, and we have to believe that. And we even talked about journaling last night. So the other encouragement in light of that question is journal the things that God is doing and has done,
Mm.
so that when you get to the places and new milestones where you are not trusting or not believing or having a moment that is flesh, that is totally normal. It is absolutely okay to have those moments. He can take your questions. He can
Yeah.
absolutely handle them. But being able to look back and see when God has is going to help you know that he will.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's why we read the word.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we're going to pray today. Ashley's going to say the blessing. I know she's just
The
going to say
blessing.
the blessing.
Bless
The blessing. I feel like that's that moment from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation when she's like, the blessing. Sorry. Anyways, Ashley's going to say the prayer.
Grace.
We are so thankful for everybody that is following, that is listening, that is sharing. Yeah, we just love y'all. And so hopefully y'all have a great rest of your week. And
So shout out to my friends from Lubbock, Texas that we met in Honduras. And I think Megan has a shout out to a friend that she
yes,
met in Malden.
yes, we have been loving our sisterhood podcast hats. They have encouraged a lot of conversations, and that leads to conversations about Jesus. So I have a friend, Connor, that has a wholesale furniture store in Malden, South Carolina. So if you are looking for some good pieces at a discounted rate, which they have some Target stuff in there, so I'm just letting you know. But it was great. It was a great conversation, and just any opportunity to share people what we're talking about. It's awesome.
Yeah. So thank you again. We hope you um, enjoyed today and
Yeah.
continue to come back. But we're going to pray. Lord, we just thank you for being a God that sees all the details, that you are so in the details that sometimes we just have to get out of the way so that you can provide and do as you will. God, I pray that we would step aside, that we would build the basket in faith and release that and surrender it to your control and to your plan and purpose. Lord, forgive us for when we have just tried to hold on for too long. I pray that you would give opportunity for those moments to be teachable and to learn from, so that we don't make those mistakes again, and that we hear and we tune in to what you're saying to us. God, I pray that we don't let the moments of disobedience define us for the rest of our lives. But we take those moments and we prepare and do our best to strive after you. God, I pray that you would continue to reveal yourself to us in your word, that your word would just bounce off the pages and that it would become life and light, and that we would just see your goodness and your faithfulness. God, I pray that we wouldn't be scared of the things that we don't know are out there or that we're going to face, but we would trust and know that you have a plan and a purpose for all of it. Lord, we love you and we thank you so much. And I pray that for those listening today, I pray that you would just be with them, that you would provide where they need provision, and that you would just remind them that you see them and that they are not alone and that they are surrounded. And I pray that you would just use us to continue to glorify your name, and um, you would get all the honor and glory. And it's in Jesus' precious and holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, have a great weekend. Bye.
We'll see ya.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. We love getting to spend time with you, and we hope you love spending time with us.
Yes, and if you enjoyed it, we want you to go to Spotify, Apple, ever you listen, and please give us a like, a thumbs up, a rating,
Yes.
because this helps get it out to more people, so that more people can hear about Jesus and how amazing he is. It's not anything for us. It's just so people know his goodness.
Yeah, it helps us to be able to do more, to reach more. So hit those stars, hit those likes, leave a review. Tell us what you enjoyed. Tell us what you want more of. We want to hear from you. And as always, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week.